Views and opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium.
Dinar would have had serious consequences for the world financial system, but may also have empowered the people of Africa, something black activists say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake. We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing cake.
Say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
We're slicing.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold.
Welcome everyone to the Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Dave from LA, coming to you live from FEMA Region number 6. And today is May the 12th, 2017. We have a live show for you on this Friday. I want to just thank you all for spending your time with us and giving us some of your energy. Greatly appreciate it as we continue on this journey. Let's continue to support Black Talk Radio Network by going to the website for this network, www.blacktalkradionetwork.com. And that is the homepage for this network. And while you're on the homepage, you will see on the far right-hand margin, you'll see the donation prompt that's there, that all you have to do is just hit it, and it will lead you into how you can give some of your financial energy to ensure that this network continues to grow and bring you information. So important that we do that, so that we will be here in the future. Also, and I would just say this network is actually working off of your sponsorship. So it's not going to get commercial sponsorship. In order for us to continue, it's going to need you to actually engage in that. So very, very important that we have Black Talk Radio Network going forward. Also, you can support the network by being part of its social media network that was created for you in mind. It was actually created for you to engage in a holistic way to have your social media activities without compromising your overall selling your identity, or for you not to be adversely affected by someone else data mining and getting information about you and using that adversely against you. So you could promote yourself, your business, someone else's business, an event, or some things that you think need to have more public exposure. You could do that by, by your social media engagement on BTR Community. BTR Community can be found on the website of Black Talk Radio Network, or you can simply go to www.btrcommunity.com. It went out on me for a second. .com, and you can be a part of it. It's the only place that I post, so I think it's very, very important that we do just that. We can give what it is that we need to be giving for our overall development. So come on over to BTR Community and do your social media activities with us there. So only $24 a year. Okay. Also, if you would like to acquire real money, you can go to our precious metals company, Prosperity Mint, PROSPERITYMINT.com, and check out what's in inventory there. Then email info@prosperitymint.com. before you engage, so that someone can make sure that you are purchasing correctly and explain the overall process to you to make sure that you are not doing anything that's going to adversely affect you. You just want to make sure it's in your best interest. So you could do that there. Very, very important. Okay, so today's show, now I want to spend more time, so I'm not going to do too much of what's in the news, but this one I just could not pass up. And we're going to get into the news. And I want to play a video real quick of what we talked about yesterday. So I'm going to ask Scotty to do it. If you could, Scotty, go to our page in BTR Community, Thando Radio Show, and you'll see the YouTube video that's there from Farmer Pony. And it's got the White House press conference. I would just want to play the beginning part of that when they talk about the cyber security. Very, very, very important. And why this goes right along with this goes along with the one article I want to check out from BCC, NHS cyber attack, GPS and hospitals hit by ransomware. And I guess ransomware has been attacking a bunch of places: Spain, Italy, China, Thailand, Vietnam, the U.S., a bunch of different places. And you know what? No coincidence that it's done on a Friday. I always told you that this stuff is going to be happening on a Friday. But what happened is that, this is from BCC, NHS services across England and Scotland have been hit by large-scale cyber attacks, which is being treated as a major incident. The Prime Minister said the incident was part of a wider attack affecting organizations around the world. Some hospitals and GPS cannot access patented data after their computers were locked by a malicious program demand a payment worth of £230. There's no evidence patients' data has been compromised. But the BCC understands up to 39 hospitals and organizations and GPS have been affected. Okay, so I guess this has been going on today all over, and this is going to be a part of the overall agenda. And I said this is what we're going to start to see that is going to start to really, really start to expand. And so big ups to my sister, Strategic Melanin. What's going on, sister? So.
Hey, Dave, if I could say something about that.
Yes, hey, Scotty.
I don't know if you read it because I'm trying to do something else, and I was listening on my daughter's smartphone, so it's a little delay on there. So I might have missed if you brought up that the NSA is the root cause of this because, again,
yes,
they do hack people. They're so-called citizens, you got citizenship in the corporation, and they've been spying on us. I mean,
right.
This is an old story, massive hacking and all this and that. So somehow it got leaked to WikiLeaks or somebody else, and it got published, and then those hackers found the NSA had identified a security hole and exploited it. So this is the NSA is ultimately responsible for all this. And I did get some more information about what we talked about yesterday about them putting stuff on the cloud. And I saw the press conference today, and it was brought up by one of the reporters that security experts said putting all that stuff on the cloud actually puts it at risk because you're putting everything all on one server. They're sharing one server. That's what the cloud is, a shared server. So that just lessens the number of targets to one. If I can take out that one server, I can bring everything down.
Man, did y'all hear what Scotty just said? That was so Scotty, and I didn't even, because I don't know nothing about this type of stuff, but what Scotty just said, it just clarified, it just made it so crazy. You're absolutely right. It's easier now to just get everybody. Scotty, can you play, I don't know if you're out and about with your daughter, can you play that YouTube video that we got in BTR on Thando? Real quick, so everybody can hear. If not, I'll go to I'll be able to do it. I'll just have to go to another computer. Do you have access? If you don't have access, it's okay. think I lost Scotty. Did I lose Scotty?
No, I'm here, Dave.
Okay, cool. Scotty, are you able to play something? If not,
yeah,
don't
let
worry
me
about it.
just
I could go,
get to your.
on.
Let me get to your page, man. I'll be able to pull it up on BTR. It's for today's show, right?
Yes, for today's show. It's the you'll see the YouTube video, the only one I have posted for today's show. And this, I just want y'all to hear the very first part of this. It's like a long video, but we're not going to play the whole thing. We're just going to play the first. I think it's only like 10 minutes when the Department of Homeland Security person comes out and talks about the executive order that celebrity figurehead Trump signed yesterday. And I'm so glad that somebody on YouTube had caught it because.
Okay.
I just thought that it was, it was all around that Comey stuff, but what they told you first is more important. Okay, we're going to hear it now. When Scotty, you ready?
All right, just let me know when you want me to stop.
Okay.
The president just signed. He'll take a few of your questions, and respectfully, I ask that you keep your questions for him on the topic of the executive order. And don't worry, I'll come back and answer all of the rest of your pressing questions as soon as he wraps up. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tom. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much for your time. A couple of things positive to report today, and the first is that President Trump, about an hour ago, signed an executive order on cybersecurity. And that executive order, among other things, is going to keep his promise that he has made to the American people to keep America safe, including in cyberspace. I'd like to do a few things. I'll promise you that we distribute the executive order, but if I could, I'll preview the executive order for you, walk you through its three primary sections, some of its wave tops, and then take your questions. Among other things, at least as an observation from me, I think the trend is going in the wrong direction in cyberspace, and it's time to stop that trend and reverse it on behalf of the American people. We've seen increasing attacks from allies, adversaries, primarily nation states, but also non-nation state actors, and sitting by and doing nothing is no longer an option. So President Trump's action today is a very heartening one. There are three sections. They're in priority order in a sense. The first priority for the president and for now our federal government is protecting our federal networks. I think it's important to start by explaining that we operate those federal networks on behalf of the American people, and they often contain the American people's information and data. So not defending them is no longer an option. We've seen past hacks and past efforts that have succeeded, and we need to do everything we can to prevent that from happening in the future. So a few things on federal networks. We have practiced one thing and preached another. It's time for us now, and the president today has directed his departments and agencies to implement the NIST framework. It's a risk reduction framework. It is something that we have asked the private sector to implement and not forced upon ourselves. From this point forward, departments and agencies shall practice what we preach and implement that same NIST framework for risk management and risk reduction. Second, I think of note point in protecting our federal networks is that we spend a lot of time and inordinate money protecting antiquated and outdated systems. We saw that with the OPM hack and other things. From this point forward, the president has issued a preference from today forward in federal procurement on federal IT for shared services. We've got to move to the cloud and try to protect ourselves instead of fracturing our security posture. Third point I'd make is that the executive order directs all its departments and agency heads to continue its key roles, but it also centralizes risk so that we view our federal IT as one enterprise network. If we don't do so, we will not be able to adequately understand what risk exists and how to mitigate it. A number of thoughts on that. Among other things, that is going to be a very difficult task. So modernizing is imperative for our security, but modernizing is going to require a lot of hard, good governance. And responsible for that today is the President's American Innovation Technology Council. The President's American Technology Council is going to run that effort on behalf of the President here out of the White House. And we have great hope that there'll be efficiencies there, but also security. And I would probably note to you that other countries have taken 2 or 3 years to learn what we just came up with in 2 or 3 months, and that is that we can't promote innovation without first thinking through risk reduction. So doing that together is a message that we've learned, but doing it together is a message we'd like to encourage private sector folks to adopt. So point 2 in the executive order is our critical infrastructure cybersecurity effort. The President has directed the President's cabinet to begin the hard work of protecting our nation's most critical infrastructures. utilities, financial and healthcare systems, telecommunications networks. He's directed them to identify additional measures to defend and secure our critical infrastructure. And he's continued to promote the message that doing nothing is no longer an option. So the executive order not only requires his departments and agencies to help those critical infrastructure owners and operators and the most important ones, but to do it in a proactive sense. He messages a tilt towards action. We've seen bipartisan studies and observation from me over the last 8 years. Both parties, they've made powerful recommendations. They have not been adopted for various reasons. This executive order adopts the best and brightest of those recommendations, in my view. I'm going to stop with those three and take questions.
Two questions for you real quickly. First,
Actually, if I could.
yes, please do. Brian.
Brian, go ahead.
But, first, was the Russian hack in any way responsible or an impetus for this? Number two, I've talked to IT people who say putting stuff on the cloud actually can be problematic as far as security. So what additional security measures would you apply to the cloud to make sure that it's not as risky as some of the IT people tell us it would be?
Yeah, a couple questions there. So let me say three things first. The third section of the executive order, maybe the one I skipped over here a moment ago, speaks to two halves. It speaks to not only the need to develop the norms in the interoperable open communication system that is the Internet. The United States invented the Internet, and it's time to maintain our values on it. But it also speaks to a deterrence policy, which has long been overdue. And so the Russians are not our only adversary on the Internet, and the Russians are not the only people that operate in a negative way on the Internet. The Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, other nation states are motivated to use cyber capacity and cyber tools to attack our people and our governments and their data. And that's something that we can no longer abide. We need to establish the rules of the road for proper behavior on the Internet, but we also then need to deter those who don't want to abide by those rules. So to answer your first question is, no, it wasn't a Russian-motivated issue. It was a United States of America-motivated issue.
And the second question about the cloud and security on the cloud. IT people say
Yeah, we don't move to shared services. We have 190 agencies that are all trying to develop their own defenses against advanced protection and collection efforts. I don't think that that's a wise approach. There's always going to be risk. And so your question is, are we still at risk? Yes. I'm not here to promote for you that the president has signed an executive order and created a cyber secure world and a Fortress USA. That's not the answer. But if we don't move to secure services and shared services, we're going to be behind the 8 ball for a very long time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, sir.
You said sitting around doing nothing. Is it your contention that the Obama administration, that was its approach to cybersecurity, sitting around and doing nothing? Question one. Number two, you talked about one enterprise network. Does that mean every system throughout the federal government, under this executive order, the ambition is to make them all the same or protected in the same way?
No. So I'll answer them in reverse order if I can. What we need to do is view the federal government as an enterprise, as opposed to just viewing each department and agency as its own enterprise. So the Department of Homeland Security and Secretary Kelly will play a large and leading role in this effort in implementing the President's executive order. Has an enterprise, and their enterprise network covers 340 or so thousand employees and their contractors and so forth. They are responsible, and that secretary of each department and agency will remain responsible for securing those networks. But we need to look at the federal government as an enterprise as well, so that we no longer look at OPM and think, well, you can defend your OPM network with the money commensurate for the OPM responsibility. OPM, as you know, had the crown jewel, so to speak, of our information on all of our background and security clearances. So what we'd like to do is look at that and say that is a very high risk, high cost for us to bear. Maybe we should look at this as an enterprise and put collectively more information in protecting them than we would otherwise put into OPM, looking at their relevant importance to the entire enterprise. No, not just their budget, but based on what they do. So each department and agency has a responsibility to protect its own networks, but they now have a responsibility to identify their risk to the White House, to the president, so that we can look at what they've done, and just as importantly, what risk they know they're accepting, but not mitigating. There's a lot of identified risk, but there's also a lot of identified and not remediated risk. So that mitigation strategy is going to have to come through a centralized place. We've seen other countries, Israel and others, adopt a centralized view of risk management and risk acceptance decisions. So that's the answer to your question. The second question, though, maybe is that
doing nothing.
Yeah. So
was that the previous administration's approach from your vantage point?
Yeah. No, I think that the observation is that we have not done the basic block and tackling, right, of thinking of the internet as something that the American people benefit from. I think what we've done is focus on the federal IT portion of it. I think that a lot of progress was made in the last administration, but not nearly enough. I think we're going to change that. And I think looking at this from the perspective of a deterrent strategy, to be honest, yes. I think the last administration should have done that, had an obligation to do it, and didn't.
You spoke a little bit about deterrence. I was wondering if the administration has a view on what might constitute an act of war with regard, what kind of cyber attack might constitute an act of war.
Yeah, there's a whole lot that we'll talk about in terms of what constitutes a cyber attack, what's war and what's not war. The Talon Manual and other things are important, but I think the most important answer to your question is that we're not going to draw a red line on cyber war at this point today. It's not within the direct scope of the executive order. But it also would violate, I think, the president's primary mission to me to not telegraph our punches. If somebody does something in the United States of America that we can't tolerate, we will act.
You said that the point goal of this is to secure the internet. You talk about the internet as something that Americans use and enjoy. Well, the technical standards for most things on the internet are put together by many international standards organizations and engineers and things like that often aren't in the United States. Has there been any talk of outreach to these sorts of bodies to try and build in security into the next generation of protocols?
Yeah, absolutely. So the message here is not just protecting the people of America. We have an America First perspective, but the idea of having like-minded people with similar viewpoints, like our allies, developing with us the open, operable internet is something key to figuring out how we will define what is and is not acceptable. We can't cut off the internet at our borders and then expect it to operate in a viable way. And if there are good ideas coming out of Germany, then we'll take them. If there are good ideas coming out of Peoria, we'll take them as well.
Council, you mentioned the American Technology Council a short time ago. We really don't have much of an indication if there's going to be like significant Silicon Valley or tech leaders who are going to be coming here. We know that there have been reports the president's had a few phone calls with someone like Mark Zuckerberg. Can you enlighten us a bit? Who can we expect to see here coming to the White House next month? Can we expect to see someone like Mark Zuckerberg working closely with the administration when it comes to that council? Yeah, so let me go backwards a little bit. Instead of telling you who the president did and didn't talk to, I'll probably get that wrong anyway. I'll tell you that there's a lot to be learned from private industry. And among other things, that stuff needs to come into the White House in the appropriate way. And so we talk on a regular basis to leaders, some that are technical leaders, some that are business leaders. My point of calling out the American Technology Council was to point out that they're going to have a leadership role in modernizing our federal IT. And that has a lot of reasons, right? There's efficiencies and cost savings that are beyond just security. So this executive order speaks to the security component of it. And I would direct you then to the American Technology Council and their efforts as you look through and think about those other efficiencies. But, as an example, we've heard numbers that suggest the federal government spends upwards of $40,000 per employee on their IT service costs. And that is so out of line with private industry that Secretary Ross and others would probably have a very easy time buying and making a lot of money off of a company that so poorly invested their dollars. And so I think you'll see that innovation come from that group of leaders and thoughtful people. And then in terms of what you'll see over the next month, I would say I don't know how to answer that specifically, but I'd like to take the opportunity in the opening before Sarah pulls me to thank 2 or 3 people, and one of them high on my list is Mayor Giuliani. I'd like to thank him for the advice he's given to me and to the president and to others as we formulate this thinking. I'd like to thank
Scotty, we can stop it now.
I'd like to thank a few other members of Congress, Representative Ratcliffe and Hurd, Representative Nunez, Senator Collins, Senator McCain in particular, Senator Byrd, and White House.
Woo-wee, y'all. Did y'all hear? And this was on the before the Comey stuff came up. This is how they always tell you what they're going to do to you before it happens. You know what? Okay, my man Scotty had to step away. Okay, cool. So listen, let me tell you, it was so many things here. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. So many things. Where do we start? One, as Scotty said, now I didn't know, but like what Scotty was saying, that when you have put it on the cloud, that means you put everybody's stuff on one system. So now it's more convenient to hit everybody. Man, I'm telling you, heads up, everybody, it's about to happen. Make sure that you are prepared. And the way you prepare against cyber stuff is you have to have physical stuff to stay on top of it. Man, strategic, Melanie, you hear this thing? It's crazy. Number two, check this out. Number two, he said that the U.S. created the internet. No, they didn't. CERN created the internet. The same CERN that's in Geneva, the group of the scientists that created the Large Hadron Collider. That's who created the internet. Man, people are ridiculous. Next, did you hear when he said we don't want to, it's just so much stuff. It's so much, but I want you to, did you hear when he said you should never telegraph? You should never telegraph what it is that you're doing to the enemies. But you just told him you put the system on the cloud, idiot. Because he's not an idiot. He's doing what he's told, and the system is not an idiot. The system is telling you how they're going to get you because it's going to be so vulnerable on the cloud. We don't telegraph we signed an executive order today. We don't telegraph our punches and everything else. Oh, we put everything on the cloud. Man, this is going to be, it is coming in so many different ways. And by doing that, he just told everybody how to hack you. And then Scotty pointed out, he also said that we get hacked by allies and enemies. So how can you say a nation is an ally if they're hacking you? It's so true. But here's the whole thing. Why are they doing this? It's because they're telling you these are the warnings that they give you what they're about to do to you, because it's definitely going to be happening. And I don't think it's by any means a coincidence that it was done yesterday before the Comey stuff, which is a distractor to everything else. Then today you have this massive cyber attack globally all over the place. No coincidence. This stuff is only going to build. This is the new way to enslave people. It's going to be difficult. It is going to be ugly. It is going to be crazy. So we just need to be properly prepared. So I just wanted to share that with you all. So we're going to jump into today's show. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025. 866-510-9025. Okay, so we're going to jump into today's show. I want to pick up where we left off yesterday. Where we left off yesterday was that J.P. Morgan, which in my opinion is a subsidiary of the U.S. government, tells banks to partner up as U.S. debt deposit drain looms. And this is for today's show, and today is part 3 of the, excuse me, they tell you before they do you. So this is what they're telling you. And that's why we played this one first video, because they're telling you they're about to get you is on that unsafe system. And let me just say this real quick. Let me go back to that real quick. The report, he never answered the question about the report. He says, wait a minute, I talked to people in IT. The cloud is the worst thing. It's the most, it's only going to make it worse. And he didn't even really address that. Why? Because that was the clue for those that are aware of what's going on. That's the clue to tell them, hey, major cyber event is coming soon. And it's going to be so extensive and so deep, it's going to affect everybody. Could that actually be the draining of U.S. deposit drains on banks? Could that be it? I would say definitely.
Hey, Dave.
Could they be telling? Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
Listen, okay, I'm not a big expert, although I do know more than the average person. But remember, I think I shared on Thando, but I posted a video and I told people watch this guy called Eli, the computer guy, talking about virtual private networks.
Yeah.
Now,
and when we said, you had me. Yeah, I remember that.
Now, if they were trying to really trying to put up a better security system to protect themselves from hacks, each agency, because that's what we're talking about, and there's hundreds of U.S. agencies, right, but each agency will have its own server in the basement operating on a VPN. That would be the most secure way. Right. But with, like we keep stating, a cloud is a shared server. So you're going to put all these agencies on one server. So something could go wrong at one agency from internally, and then that affect everybody else because they're all on the same server. If I was, and I'm not a great expert on this, but what makes the most sense to me is for each agency to have its own private server, not leasing servers from a private company or corporation, not putting it on Amazon or which I think is what they might do because, you know, they always trying to privatize everything and sell you. The government isn't that efficient to, you know, do all this and that. So I would spend the money. Each agency will have its own server in the basement, like Hillary Clinton had that one in hers. I'm sorry, but they will have their own server in the basement on a VPN, a virtual private network. So just look up if you want to understand a virtual private network. Look that up. You can find it how-to videos on YouTube. That's how you can also protect your own network. You could set up a VPN for your own system. So that's all I wanted to share.
No. It was an important part. And that's what, Scotty, we were talking about cyber attacks and everything else. And Scotty said, well, one of the ways you got – and he sent this to us, and I checked it out over the weekend. It was a while ago, earlier this year. So very true. And, you know, Strategic Melanin made out the point. He even said, you know, because he did say this, he said it will go wrong in his statement. Right. He sure did. He definitely did. So let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this, in my opinion, plays right into this J.P. Morgan article. And the article was in Bloomberg earlier this week on the 8th, on Tuesday. J.P. Morgan tells banks to partner up as U.S. deposit drain looms. And I ask you, do you think that the U.S. deposit drain that's looming could be tied to a cyber attack? I would say yes. We talked about that for a very long time ago. Some of our first shows that we saying that this is how this is going to happen. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this executive order was signed the same week that J.P. Morgan, a subsidiary of the U.S. government, came out with this executive order before the Comey stuff and everything else. Why is that so important? Because they tell you before they do it. So what I want to do is I want to pick back up where we left off yesterday. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call. 866-510-9025. 866-510-9025. And so we are, it is really, really coming to a position. So I want to pick up where we left off. And if I remember, okay, here it is. I picked up right where, thank you. I want to pick up where we left off yesterday. 1 second. I want to go back. All right, here we go. So we were talking about, I want to pick it up. The article, it says a couple of paragraphs down. Fed bond buying spree from 2009 to 2014, dubbed quantitative easing, and this inadvertently left the industries flush with deposits. Investors took money that they got selling mortgage-backed bonds, or MBS's mortgage-backed securities. Mortgage-backed bonds turned into mortgage-backed securities, and Treasury securities to the Fed and parked it in the U.S. retail and commercial bank accounts. This created some $2.5 trillion in excess bank deposits, according to J.P. Morgan. It's estimating that 60%, or about $1.5 trillion of that money, will trickle out of the banks in the next 4 to 5 years if the Fed follows through with recent guidance and begins reversing quantitative easing in December. The Fed is currently holding about $4.5 trillion of securities. The way it will get rid of them is by letting them mature and not buying new ones. Deposit destroyed. J.P. Morgan presentation titled Core Deposit Strike Back. That's the name of the thing that they had for their so-called investors or private clients. J.P. Morgan presentation titled Core Deposit Strike Back illustrates how this process will snap bank deposits. Let me move this down. Will snap bank deposits using the example of a couple who paid off a mortgage that has been bundled in with other mortgages and sold to the Fed. Right now, when the couple takes that money out of their bank account for their payment, the Fed uses that cash to buy another mortgage bond, recycling it back into the banking system. Let me stop right there. Do you hear what they just said? J.P. Morgan presentation titled Core Deposit Strike Backs illustrates this process. Illustrates how this process will snap bank depositors using the example of a couple who pays off a mortgage that was bundled with other mortgages and sold to the Fed. Right now, when that couple takes that money out of their bank account for that payment, the Fed uses that cash to buy another mortgage bond, recycling it back into the banking system. When you pay off your mortgage, it ain't paid. It gets recycled right back into the system as a bond that is sold back into the system. This is why in 2008, people that so-called paid off their mortgages, so they thought, was actually getting evicted and were getting foreclosed on because they didn't know about MBS's, mortgage-backed securities. This stuff is going to be crazy. Going on, a deposit is destroyed if the Fed does not reinvest, the presentation says. J.P. Morgan estimated that quantitative easing related deposit drain could result in loan growth lagging deposit growth by $200 billion to $300 billion a year. That could be particularly problematic for banks that rely on deposits. Products that tend to roll over swiftly, such as broker accounts brought from third parties, large commercial bank accounts, and high-interest savings accounts for the wealthy customers. Here is what they're telling you. It don't matter who you think you are. They're going to steal from everybody because you are. And these third parties and all these other parties and this, these are derivatives, folks. This is derivative. This is the derivative market about to blow up. And it goes on. Retail dash. It may also set off a dash for retail deposits, a classification that includes bread and butter checking accounts, which banks love because they are especially cheap and stable. Let me just stop right there. Why are we making institutions that are stealing from us financially secure and stable when you're not financially secure and stable? Why are you giving your energy to someone that's going to be stealing it? Why are we giving our energy to someone that has created an instrument of deflation and inflation and debt that steals your overall productivity of the past, your labor of the past that you're going to have to store in something that can be valuable so that when you get older, when you don't have that same energy, you can go to it and use it. But now because of that, we have such an addiction and relationship with cash, and that's what cash does. It makes you a subject of a ruler. Cream, cash rules everything around me because it steals your energy. Mid-sized banks will have an especially hard time growing retail deposits by ramping up advertising and investing in branches. According to J.P. Morgan's presentation, that's because the lack of the market muscle of mega banks such as J.P. Morgan itself as well as Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and Bank of America. J.P. Morgan, like some other banks, offer depositors cash incentive for opening new checking and savings accounts with 5-figure balances. Excuse me, let me go on. About 42% or $1.6 trillion of the new deposits that the U.S. banks have amassed since the late 2009 have gone to lenders with less than $1 trillion in assets. Do you see the problem there? They aren't funded at all. They got $1 trillion, but they got liabilities of $1.6 trillion. Man, that's a deficit, y'all. You only got assets for $1 trillion, but you got obligations of $1.6 trillion. According to data, J.P. Morgan compiled the regulatory filings and the SLM Financial. Large banks are making sizable investment in brand, customers, acquisition, and technologies, leading to market share gains, according to the report. Such big banks have the wherewithal to hold on to those gains, and small ones may have to consider selling or buying rival to bulk up on retail depositors, J.P. Morgan argued. So what are they saying there? Big bank take little bank in order for big bank to survive. This is why they say you better partner up with us now. Here it goes. Consolidation drivers. The need for retail deposits to fund loan growth. The challenges of the originally are new relationships, and the scales required to support technology and brand investment will drive consolidation, the report says. A looming push for retail customers may have already besprung deal-making, J.P. Morgan said, noting that a handful of bank mergers have involved targets with heavy concentration of depositors' purchases from brokers or acquisitions through listing the services such as Quick Rate, both of which are more expensive funding sources than retail accounts. Let me just stop there real quick. What's going on in the retail market, ladies and gentlemen? The retail market is exploding. So if the retail market is exploding, that overall revenue and that overall opportunity to reinvest, and remember what they said, if they don't reinvest, it dies. If that's not there for reinvestment in retail, not only is the overall retail store is going to die, it's going to kill the whole system. These people got this game plan thoroughly in place, and it's going to be disastrous. This is what's going to drain this whole system. But it's going to drain to their benefit. And this is where the everyday person's economy is going to be crashing and collapsing, not the economy. The example includes BNC Bancorp's $2 billion sales to Pinnacle Financial Partners and Private Bancorp Incorporated, roughly a $5 billion agreement to sell to Canadian, move this down, Imperial Bank of Commerce. And let me just stop right there. What's going on in Canada's housing market? Its largest non-banking lender is collapsing. It's already collapsed. It's going to continue to unwind. It's the largest non-banking lender, which means that it's so large that it ties into the banks as well. And when those accounts start to grow, and that overall cross-pollination, and that continue, because everything is interconnected. All this is interconnected. It's interconnected to retail. It's interconnected to housing. It's interconnected to investing. It's interconnected to everything. It's interconnected to cyber attacks. It's interconnected to the cloud. Oh, man. They must have done this sometime before in the past, because this is a great plan where people will say, I don't get this. All you need to get is this. They about to drain everything so that they can have more leverage of resources going forward. Article continues. The median for deposit in the form of brokerage and listing services accounts for the U.S. banks with at least $1 billion in assets was 2.5% at the end of 2016, according to the data from SNL Financial. Those types of fund accounts for more than 20% of deposits at BCN Bank and Private Bancorp, according to regulation. BNC Bancorp. Almost finished. Deposits need factors in both banks' decisions to seek a partner. Deposits needs factors into both banks' decisions to seek partners. Selling to Pinnacle is an excellent opportunity to really drive some really serious dynamic deposit growth to fund this machine over the next several years. You hear what they said there? They're telling you everything right there. An excellent opportunity to really drive some really serious dynamic deposit growth to fund this machine over the next years. They're going to have banks collapse, and they're going to have to not have a banking crisis that's going to cause for banks to merge. Or here's what they're really saying. Banks don't merge. What they do is this. They go insolvent, and then the merger happens. They realize the opportunity. We got everybody right where we want to. We got the debt where we needed to make, where we can control and get even more from the people and enslave them even more because of the debt in which they owe. And all we got to do is starve them. All we got to do is starve them. It goes on. Oh, missed my thing. All right, Bancorp's chief executive officer said in a conference call with analysts in January, Private Bancorp urged investors to vote in favor of its deal with CIBC in shareholders' presentations last month to address standalone funding constraints. Standalone funding constraint. What is a standalone funding constraint? In my opinion, this is what their bank basically saying. You're going to be the only one standing, and you're going to get swallowed up. We don't want to stand alone. We're going to have to merge, because if we don't merge with this overall crisis that they're going to do, everybody that doesn't merge is going to be blood in the water, and it's going to be a takeover. You can't stand alone. By giving it access to large retail deposit base. Selling to CIB will help Private Bancorp with its interest rate raise. A Stevens Incorporated bank analyst said Monday in a research note to clients, we have long felt the companies need to improve their funding base to support loan growth. In the note said, to do so on a standalone basis would be expensive and difficult. And what are they talking about, ladies and gentlemen? If we don't merge now, we won't be in existence later because of what they have. See, they already know what's in plan. They already tell them this is about to happen. What do you think? I think we need to merge with people and stand alone. How are you going to sell this to your people? easily. We just going to tell them in order for us to in order for us to grow where things are going, we don't need to stand alone. Why? Because they're going to cut everybody off. This is where, remember Donald Trump said he wants to bring back Glass-Steagall and to break up the big banks and break everything up. That wasn't to break up the big banks. The big banks don't care about Glass-Steagall. They wrote it. They don't mind, but what they're going to do is that they are going to get the overall assets and they're going to get the overall momentum from the system by crashing it and forcing everyone to sell to them. Oh, not at their regular. See, they offered all of these companies, and this is what they did. It's just like this. They come in and they say to you, you going to sell that car out back? No, I'm not going to sell a car to you. Yes, you are. I got $10 in my pocket right now for that car. You're talking about $10 in your pocket. That car itself is worth $100,000. Well, it won't be worth $100,000 if I make a phone call to your boss and get you fired, and now you standing alone off of what you've been saving, what you have, and what you don't have. And then not only that, any person that try to buy that car outside of us, they ain't gonna have access to the funds to buy it because I'm gonna freeze their account for whatever reason. What do you think that person is gonna do? And they're gonna tell them, either take this cash or I'll take it from you for nothing. For nothing at all. You can go buy a lunch with this. You can get half of a lunch with this $10. That's what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. And this whole thing is going to be a part of the economic crisis that we're going to be experiencing, that is going to really, really perpetuate the demise of the everyday person's economy. This is why this is so important. And we need to prepare ourselves accordingly for this. And we're getting ready to go to a commercial break. We got a couple of minutes, but if you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. How is this going to be done? In my opinion, there's going to be a banking crisis that is going to all of a sudden come up. And in that banking crisis that comes up is going to get a lot of attention to that banking crisis. And then they're going to say that there was one bank that, because of the banking crisis, got sloppy, and some hacker was able to get into this system, and now they done spread that system, all that malicious attack, that malware or whatever they're going to be using for that cyber attack is starting to spread everywhere, and it was happening too fast, and we couldn't catch it because everybody was on the cloud. You ever seen clouds, folks? What's the thing about a cloud? You can go right through it. You can go right through a cloud. But a clouds also bring pressure and barometric pressure that can bring static electricity, that can bring storms, that can destroy everything beneath it. Who is beneath everything here? The everyday person. They're telling you it's a hurricane. It's a tornado hurricane that's about to come, all mixed up in one. And it's going to be coming from out the cloud, ladies and gentlemen, because I truly, truly think it's going to be by wage of cyber attack. And I'm starting to see assets, strategical assets that are starting to be acquired throughout the world or being moved. I hate to do this. I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it. Y'all remember that movie? 2012? Remember one of the things that they were doing throughout the world? They were securing assets that they wanted to get out of the general public when the general public would go crazy, or when the overall storm, or when the waters would come, so that stuff wouldn't be destroyed, so that stuff will remain in its original form but be protected. The largest gold coin ever created, ever minted, known as the $1 million gold coin, the $1 million gold maple leaf, was stolen out of one of the most secure museums in Germany last month. You think that was a coincidence? No. That was an inside job to move it without people seeing really what's going on. Just say, oh, it was stolen. It was stolen. The $1 million, and if you've never seen that coin, take a look at that coin. That thing is as big as your head and shoulders. It's huge. In my opinion, that was a strategic move to take it out of harm's way, because that museum is going to be a part of exposed to the hurricane, tornado, storm that is coming and going to be running throughout the lands.
Dave, before we
Here
go,
we come. Listen, everyone. Go ahead, Scotty.
Before we go to break, you just said something key that ties back to the U.S. government corporation, USA Inc., putting everything on one server, a.k.a. the cloud. You said an inside job about that museum, right? That was the most secure. Yep. It's supposed to be the most secure, right? So it's an inside job. See, that's the thing, though, is that somebody can enter into their so-called shared servers from one agency and upload something or download something, like open up an email, because that's how that ransomware is getting spread, and open up an email with virus, and then guess what? It's going to hit you from the inside.
Yep. And what happened? And Scotty, now when that happens, what do you have to do from the inside? You got to shut everything down.
Yeah, I mean, everything is one server. It's one server.
Oh my God!
That's why he said that Donald Trump said and I put this in your chat. Okay, he said that each agency head, I'm paraphrasing what he said, is going to be responsible, right? So for their, own security. So if I'm on a shared server, how can, I protect against what may happen in another agency that uploads something to the server?
So true. So true. So true. And this is and Strategic Melon said, and they're going to blame somebody else.
Like they blame the Russians.
They're going to blame it on somebody else. That's exactly. This is the same methodology. This is the same MO that's been done so many times before in the past. And they do it because it works. And they do it, and it works because people always thinks that they got blind faith in the system, say they would never do that. And by doing that, you're making an excuse for their criminal activity, so they don't even need to hide anything anymore. You hide everything for them by your overall, they wouldn't do that. Man, that stuff gets, that gets me. So they used to, it don't get me no more. I just laugh and say, okay, we got to get ready to go to a commercial break. I won't say it. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Black Talk Radio since 2008, providing new black media for the masses.
Welcome back, everyone, to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, don't hesitate. Give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. Hit ***. We'll see you in queue, and we'll bring you up. And we're talking about they tell you before they do you, and they are about to do so many people. And this whole thing is so interconnected. And let me just tell you one thing that they'll do, too. It's so funny. They had this guy come out from the Department of Homeland Security praising this new executive order, and they put it on the cloud. And let me tell you what they're going to do. They're going to come back and say that celebrity figurehead Donald Trump tried to run the country like a business. He tried to put it on a private cloud system. Put everybody on the cloud. And because he was running this like this stuff was he done messed up and everything else. And why would they do that? Because it's plausible deniability, complete plausible deniability. They're going to actually allow this to blow up, and then they got plausible deniability by the cloud, and they can just say, oh, remember he was boasting about making America great and all this other stuff, and, oh, this stuff is playing out so to the T. And all it needs is for one place to be compromised, and it affects all. But here's the whole thing. Yes, all this is very important, but here's the thing that I really want to show you. Everything is the cloud in this system. Its whole interface is connected to bring a measure of subjugation and demise to you and your family in our community. And so Strategic Maryland said, what are they going to do? Declare war on North Korea or Russia? And remember the names of the countries that he said. He said Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Yes, that's exactly it. They're going to have the perfect boogeyman. And guess what they're going to do? By doing that, all of the people here in this country are here under the corporation of the United States, all of the human resources, all of the real estate, because that's where the term real estate comes from. You're a real entity that is the estate of someone else. All of the real estate and all of the people here are going to be so adversely affected by it all, because we have such an addiction to cash that when our cash is gone, first thing that we'll be willing to do and ready to do is go to war, and we'll send our baby girls to go do it. Because I got to live comfortable. I got to get mine. Who took my stuff? Who stole this? And they're going to make it the most patriotic thing for you to do, is that the nation bond together so much that it sent its daughters to war. And they're going to have all the perfect songs and all of the propaganda, Uncle Sam wants you, and all this other patriotic stuff, and they're going to pass, and they're going to, oh, my goodness, and it's going to send our daughters off to war over this, and it's going to be a massive depopulation effort. This is where we are. This is what the system does, because we make ourselves vulnerable to it. So another article I want to pull up. Hopefully I can get to it. But if you'd like to get on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025. Another very, very important article that we need to display. Okay, I got it. Here it comes. And I posted this earlier this week. I think it was Monday that we posted this one. I think it was Monday, but I may be wrong. Let me find it. Let me go to it. This is all happening under the nose of everybody else in the world divesting themselves of the U.S. and getting out of the way. Why are they doing that? Because they realize that it's going to be their opportunity. See, what happens is that the same individuals that have been exploiting the rest of the world by using the United States as the vehicle, those individuals and that energy is not being dissipated. Now it's just going to change its direction. Now what they're going to do is they're going to do the opposite. They're going to totally exploit the U.S. and to have that be actually broken up so the rest of the world can now exploit them. And you know what everybody will say is justice. But see, this is the thing, is that we don't have justice. Man was not meant to adjudicate the actions of another person. Defend yourself against, yes. Adjudicate, no. That means you have a ruler. That means you have a ruler. So I want to pull up this article really quickly. Very, very important. I think I got it. Let me just find this really quickly. And it's so important as my computer starts to populate to pull up. And if I can't find it there, I know where it is. I'll just have to go into, well, let me make sure. And it's what we're going to be seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is that the total, and I don't want you all to be adversely affected by this unnecessarily so, because you don't have to be. And I would say it's in your best interest to do what you can, acquire what you can while you still can, while everybody else is not looking. Because once everybody else in the world gets aware of what's going on, it's going to be very difficult for you to prepare for yourselves. Now, I want to pull up this other article. There's two of them that I really want to pull up. And I should have had them already staged. I had one staged. And here's the one that we need to pull up. And I posted this one on Tuesday. And it's Donald Trump wants to revise the 1933 banking law. What that means is very unclear. And that banking law that they're talking about is Glass-Steagall. And we need to talk about that. So here it goes. Here's the article. And this came from Cerebrally Naive Money. Most people that are, most of the propaganda believers call this organization CNN. Here's what it said. It's an article by them earlier this week. Same day that the article about J.P. Morgan came out. Here it goes. Nearly 20 years after Congress killed it, Glass-Steagall is making a comeback in the Trump era. Now, it was killed 20 years ago by Clinton. Okay? By Clinton. Now, you know what? Scotty, if you could, is a really, really short. No, that's okay. No, that's all right. All right, so here it goes. Glass-Steagall is making a comeback in the Trump era. One problem. No one knows what a revival. No one knows what a revival of the Depression era banking law should look like. One more time. No one knows what a revival of the Depression era banking law should look like. Why would you be bringing back a Depression era banking law system that should have never been out of place? Because you need to have another depression. But this one is going to be far worse than the last depression. It's going to be a combination of the Great Recession and Depression all rolled up in one, and it still will not adequately represent what it has done. What it will do is this. Here's what it will do. It's going to, the economic crisis that we'll see here in the United States will be an economic crisis that will have an empire fall. That's what is going to be happening. That's where we really, really, truly are. That's the setup. So this is what we need to prepare for. So give me 1 second, everyone. 1 second, 1 second. I got to check something real quick. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. So let's get back to this article. And here's what it says. Depression era banking law. The original Glass-Steagall Act of 1933 prohibited banks from also doing the risky work of investment banking. Congress repealed Glass-Steagall in 1999. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can get to a quieter place. Sorry, everyone. So it goes on. Congress repealed Glass-Steagall in 1999, clearing the way for the creation of a banking behemoth, the banking behemoth like J.P. Morgan Chase and Bank of America and Citigroup. Why did they say that? Okay, this is why they became the banking behemoth, because of this. Originally, they could only be about depositors, bankers, and where you actually, the only thing that they would engage in banking style was where you can only have deposits. They couldn't do any investment banking, meaning they couldn't take your deposit, go into the Forex market. This is why they want to this is why they tell you to keep your cash in the bank, because at night they take all that cash out of there, or the digital imprint of that out of there, and they go into the Forex market and use that to leverage their overall investing, and they don't pay you anything. This is why there is no interest that's paid to people anymore, because it's an investment bank, and this is why you're not a depositor anymore. You're an unsecured investor. The old Glass-Steagall meant that you had to only things that banks could do was they couldn't invest it into. They were limited in what they could invest it in. They could only invest it into mortgages, car loans, and things of that nature. They could not go into investment side, because then if they went into investment side from the Great Depression, that's what caused the banking crisis for the Great Depression, and that's why they came up with Glass-Steagall. Same thing, the same reason why they're going to have to come with Glass-Steagall Part 2 or Glass-Steagall 2.0. So it goes on. All of them have been present. Let me see. All of them have big presence on Main Street that allows them to take deposits. Now, when they say Main Street, let me give you a clue. Main Street means you, the everyday. Wall Street is the corporation, and Main Street is commonly referred to you. They all have big presence on Main Street that allow them to take depositors. That means, see, they have these coded words so you really don't see what they're really doing. So let me rephrase this. This is what it says. They all have big presence in every person in this country's life, and they take their deposits. At the same time, they participate in the corporate gambling sector known as Wall Street activities like stocks, bonds to investors. And how they wrote it was this. All of them have big presence on Main Street that allow them to take deposits. At the same time, they participate in Wall Street activities like selling stocks and bonds to investors. Calls for the law to be brought back reached a fever pitch after the 2008 financial meltdown that has returned under President Trump. The 2016 Republican Party platform explicitly called for a return of Glass-Steagall. Why did they call for Glass-Steagall? Because they knew that there was going to be a Glass-Steagall event in the Great Depression that was going to come on, and they wanted to be the ones that provided the so-called solution, when in actuality that was the solution that they was going to create that was the intention of by creating the actual problem that will bring in Glass-Steagall. But there was a lot of confusion about what that means, because there are multiple purposes floating around, including one from the Senate and a bank regulator. Just last week, Trump was asked if he supported breaking up the banks. He sure did. We posted it here. Some people want to go back to the old system, right? So we're going to go back to look at that one, Trump said without explaining. Asked about the comments, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer made no mention of breaking up the banks. He simply told reporters that Trump is looking at the 21st century Glass-Steagall, that he's looking at a 21st century Glass-Steagall. Let me stop there really quickly. Why is that so important? What is Trump known for? Who has he always been about? He's always been an expert in bankruptcy, an expert in consolidation, an expert in moving the debt and allowing debt to be leveraged in bankruptcy. And this is the 21st century version of Glass-Steagall. No, Glass-Steagall in itself is timeless. Banks don't steal people's deposits. What they're going to allow them to do, and what they're going to do, is that they're going to say, because of this crisis, we need to strengthen Glass-Steagall even further. And what they're going to do, and they're talking about regulations, and Trump is talking about deregulating them, but what they're going to allow the banks to do is they're going to allow the banks to write the 21st Glass-Steagall, and it's going to give the appearance of civil rights, when in actuality it's going to bring nothing but exactions, meaning they're going to take what's not owed or due. It's a willful wrong. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is actually starting to come together. Here's all of these stories came out this week because they all tie into a warning for those that are for those individuals that are actually a part of the corporation of the United States and the trust and the foundation of the United States, known and are still a part of the founding fathers, because they had a foundation of we the people. Had nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you at all. And then my man Scotty said it came out last month that the CIA can do hacks and make it look like someone else did it. Right. And that's what exactly is going to happen here. So this whole thing is going to blow up, and the hacking, the cyber attack is the new battlefield. They're not going to go to the old school ways, because then people have seen that before and they can remember that. Now everybody is so caught up in this technology and everything else, and everything is digitally connected, that they're going to blow this whole thing up right there. Remember, they said that they created the internet, which they didn't lie. But what is true about that is that the system did create the internet. We didn't create it. That's why what we didn't create, you don't have any control over. What they do is the controllers allow you to get a piece of ownership that can be repossessed from you at any time. And this is what they're going to do. This whole thing is starting to build. Okay, so I want to just continue with this really quickly. So the article goes on. Nothing in common. Recent statements of Trump's officials show that the Glass-Steagall name means different things to different people. They also use the word Glass-Steagall, but they have nothing in common with each other. We're talking about a fish, a bird, and a reptile, says a partner at Davis Polk who represents the big banks. Besides, the White House comments there is a 21st Glass-Steagall bill that was reintroduced last month by Senator Elizabeth Warren and John McCain. The bill would take an aggressive approach towards preventing banks from acting as both commercial lender and investment bank. Here it comes. They're going to blow everything up first for that to get through. A third proposal was put out in March by the FDIC Vice Chair and admirer of Glass-Steagall, proposed requiring big banks to revamp their internal structure to make them less risky to the system. To make them less risky to the system. To make them less risky to the system. But their overall debt and their overall commitments and their overall books, their balance sheets are already attached to the system. The Federal Reserve's balance sheet is already attached to derivatives, mortgage-backed securities. Excuse me, everyone. Mortgage-backed securities, credit default swaps, bail-ins and bail-outs. The only way that you can unwind that now, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, it's a little loud right here. Let me see if I can go to another spot. The only way that you can unwind that now, ladies and gentlemen, is for the whole system, the whole investment banking and commercial banking and lending banking system to go down. That means, ladies and gentlemen, that they're going to bail in and drain your accounts to settle this. And then they're going to say, don't worry about it. You're going to be able to come back. What they're going to do is they're going to say, we got a new dollar. That last dollar had too much debt on it and it imploded. And now we're going to have a dollar that's going to be backed by gold and silver. So this is the one that you're going to need to get. But guess what's going to happen? In order for you to get this, the rest of the world is doing this too. In order for us to do that, that dollar is going to cost you. It's going to cost you so much. In today's, I wouldn't be surprised that in today's, I don't even like to put a price where silver and gold is going to go. But just a case in point, 1 ounce of silver could be over $500, $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000, or even $7,000 or $8,000 for 1 ounce of it. But see, your cash is going to be tied to that. And here's the thing: you're not going to get paid anymore. And the overall debt instrument of cash the debt that has already been accumulated is going to have to be defaulted on. And when that is defaulted on, in order for the default to be complete, assets have to be seized. That debt has to be serviced by liquidation. And when they liquidate it, they're going to liquidate it, and all the assets are going to, now they're going to say this asset is backed. These assets are really, really valuable, and they're going to place assets at a much higher price. But what they're going to do first is collapse everything so that all the assets that you have will be swiped away from you. And then they're going to come in and buy it for pennies on the dollar when there's blood on the street. This is a ruthless game that is being played, and we have to get in front of it. We have to get in front of it, because the cash that they pay you in now is a depreciating debt instrument and is a dinosaur that is not going into the future. It is going to die. They are actually going to go to a more true, holistic term of the word dollar, which means dollar actually means in Latin silver. The piece of paper you have in your hand is a counterfeit of that, is imitation of that. It's artificial. It's an artificial dollar because it's a debt instrument. So I'm having little problems here with the noise, and so let me just, okay, so we're good. So sorry about that, all. Bear with me. But if you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. We'll see you in queue. We'll definitely bring you up. What I want to do is that we need to totally finish this and talk about what are some of the things that we should be doing and why we should be doing it. It's too important to sleep on this stuff. So now, back to this article. So it says, each of those ideas, okay. The 21st, and then it says, let me read this last one so we can pick back up where we were. A third proposal was put out in March by the FDIC Vice Chairman and admirer of Glass-Steagall, and he proposed requiring banks to revamp their internal structure to make them less risky to the system. The 21st Glass-Steagall has become a test. Different people are pouring different meanings into it, says this one person. Now, why are they doing that? Because it's given time for the system to explode. And once the system explodes, then they'll come to a decision that this is the best way to do it. The article goes on. Each of those ideas could lead to vastly different outcomes, especially in the terms of whether the big banks would be effectively broken up. And we already know that they are going to be broken up. J.P. Morgan Chase basically said we're going to bring in Glass-Steagall and we're going to drain all accounts to do it. But it's going to be the Glass-Steagall that we write. I don't know why this. One second. The Glass-Steagall that we write, that's going to be in our best interest, that's going to steal from you, the everyday person. And this is what we got to prevent and make sure that we don't allow to happen. Because if we do, the overall jobs, the overall prison industrial complex is going to be for those that couldn't pay their debts of the past. Even though you didn't create the debt, you're going to be held responsible for servicing what you didn't create. And this is what they're going to do. This is how they continue the slave. And there's going to be sweatshops, and there's going to be debtors' prisons that are going to be brought back. And the sentences is that you're going to be sentenced to hard labor. And that hard labor is that you're going to have to pay back your debts. Here's the problem. The new debt is going to be, they're not going to give you a debt jubilee. They're going to say you need to pay back what it was. But guess what? The overall assets of everything have gone up so much. Not only couldn't you pay that debt when you had under a debt system, but it's over 4 and 5 times bigger because we're in an asset-based economy right now. You're going to have to first acquire assets. And assets are extremely high, and they're going to be difficult to acquire, and they're almost going to be impossible for the everyday person to obtain. And all the loans are going to be collateralized. All loans will be collateralized. You won't be able to say what your good credit history from the past has been. Your credit score won't matter. What do you have as assets that you can collateralize? A promise that you'll return payment. Or when you do have assets, you will be the financial institutions that will be creating the loans. And the first thing that you're going to ask people is, no. We already went through that debt stuff. Everybody's going to be an expert on debt in the future. No, we went through that debt stuff. What asset do you have that has some value before I give you anything? What am I going to trade for you that you have a value that I have that's going to be traded for? Why would this be in my best interest, in our best interest for us to engage in this exchange? You can't give me something that's worthless for something that's priceless. You're going to have to give me something of equal value that is an asset for an asset. And the thing about this whole thing is that when they have this depositors drain, that's going to take away, and your opportunity to acquire assets is going to go right down the drain. These people are seriously sick. But what they are is this. The upholders of a system of subjugation and enslavement, and they have to strengthen that at all times. Listen, get ready to go to a commercial break. If you'd like to get in on a conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. I want to finish this, and then we got to talk about what are some of the things that you should be doing. But we have to finish this. The time is now, and continue to do what you're doing. And this will put you and your family and our community in a better position. You're listening to Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
Okay, welcome back, everyone, to the Thando Radio Show, brought to you by Black Talk Radio Network. I had to go to a different spot because got a lot of activity going on around me, so hopefully it's not disturbing the show. So let me just pick up back where we left off. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, give us a call, 866-510-9025, 866-510-9025. And I may not be able to switch up because of the interest of time. No, I'm going to have to. Oops. So, all right, so one bad thing, as you all know, the internet is a little shaky here, so got to go back to where I was to pick back up so we can continue the show because time is running. Okay. So if you'd like to get in on the conversation, you got a question or comment, please give us a call. All right. So what I want to do is I want to pick back up on this article and how this is really starting to play out. And it's amazing. It seems like every time that I start to, over here, as soon as we go through the commercial break, I don't have any noise disruption, but hey, that's just the way things go. All right, so goes on. The article goes on. Okay, where did we put? Okay, here we go. From a former high-ranking official in the Treasury Department who is now an associate director at Boston Counseling Group, even big bank CEOs are seen unsure. Asked about the merits of bringing back Glass-Steagall, Wells Fargo's told CNN, when people use that phrase today, I think they mean a lot of different things. But Salone said that if it means pushing if it means a push to break up big banks, that would be a mistake. Trump's official drop hint. This is where it goes on. Trump's top economic officials have not been explicit about what they mean by a 21st century Glass-Steagall, but they've dropped hints suggesting that it's something far more relaxing than the approach of both of Warren and the FDIC head. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, what I like to say Minutia, his name is quite appropriate, has told the Senate that a bright line between commercial and investment banking could hurt lending and capital markets activities that support a robust economy. Gary Cohn, the former Goldman Sachs president and now is a Trump top economic advisor. See, this is the whole thing. This is why all this is so full of it. All of these entities are being represented and making the decision. See, this is what happens. When you control assets, you control the economy. Asset holders control the economy, and whatever they decide to do becomes the law by way of making a contract, having a contract signed that becomes the law. Goes on. Cohen, the former Goldman Sachs president, who is now Trump's top economic advisor, sorry about that. advised recently told Bloomberg that a 21st century Martin Glass-Steagall could allow the U.S. to better tailor regulations in a way that increased lending. A director of policy at research at the Compass Point Research and Trade said that he is highly suspicious of Trump's talk of a 21st century Glass-Steagall. I don't see Trump coming out here like Teddy Roosevelt, getting the Truth Busters name. Aggressive Warren and McCain approach. By comparison, the Warren and McCain bill looks like more of the attempt to bring back the original Glass-Steagall. The proposal explicitly prohibits banks that use federal deposit insurance from controlling or being affiliated with entities that deal in stocks and bonds. The bill would also said individuals who work as securities and entities may not work at insured deposit institutions. The lawyer who represented big banks argued the bill goes too far. Warren and McCain is not going back to 1933, she said. It's going back to the last part of the 19th century. And the FDIC person takes a more middle ground, calling for the largest banks to add more capital to absorb losses and to partition their commercial and investment banks' activity rather than separate them into two banks. Banks are already required to ring-fence their traditional banking from their investment banking, but the proposal is about making the fence taller and broader and wider. Man, these people... You see now, this is all descriptive writing and descriptive saying for what they're truly hiding what their intentions is. Their intentions is to enslave you even further, and because they are the ones that created the debt that they don't have to pay. They are the ones that write the laws that they don't have to obey, and they are the ones that are going to be declaring the wars that they don't got to fight. And they're going to tell you what's in your best interest, while we sit back and don't do anything that is in our best interest. Okay, and almost finished, and we got to talk about some of the things we should be doing. No matter what's the meaning behind the various proposals, Glass-Steagall talk isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Glass-Steagall has an enormous political power, says Compass Point. It is one of the issues where you see agreements and principles from the far left and far right. Basically, is going to happen. The only thing what's going to happen is that the event that we're going to have to endure is going to dictate what version that we're probably going to see. And what I want to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the version that comes up. The version that they actually induce with Glass-Steagall won't save you, won't do anything that is beneficial to you for right now or even after Glass-Steagall is invoked. They've never given you anything that's been a benefit to you. They've only created things that's beneficial to the founders, those that actually where the Constitution is actually written for to protect. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence is not about you. All of those are for those individuals that are part of the corporation of the United States. And because of that, we always find ourselves in a position of economic disadvantage. But what we need to do is start to leverage our energy to our best beneficial gain. That is an asset that we all have and that we all should be sharing. We all have individual talents that we should be sharing. And that will make the overall collective direction of things going. Your body works in a collective prudence. Your body actually practices collective prudence. Your head and your feet are two different entities. Your hands and your legs are two different entities. Your heart and your brain are two different entities. Your lungs and your stomach are two different entities, but what they are have a collective prudence, and they have a collective tie to one another so that all of them work together at their own individual capabilities, within their own individual capabilities. And the energy that they create from those capabilities and those talents are beneficial to the whole body at large. This is how we should be operating. A heart can't beat and live alone. A brain will not be able to think alone. It actually needs the overall heart to assist it in its functions. So, we need to talk about in the last 15 minutes before if you have any questions or comments, definitely give us a call, 866-510-9025. What are some of the things that you should be doing? Yes, you should be saving in silver and gold. Yes, you should be acquiring other assets. Yes, you should be getting food and the provisions, the table of preparedness. Yes, you should be in the preparedness class. Yes, you should be owning Bitcoin while it's going through this run. And one of the reasons why you should be owning Bitcoin, because it is created by the bankers, the very same bankers that's going to be stealing from everyone. And this is what they're going to be using as a measure of stealing from everyone, and then they're going to actually steal that itself. But until that happens, get what you can get from it while it's still reasonably obtainable for you before it's out of your reach. And then use it to gain the things that you're going to need to acquire, the assets that you're going to need to acquire as we move into an asset-based economy. And the most important asset that you have is your energy. You should be using your energy in a very disciplined way right now and coming up with your own sovereign direction. Just because the system was created before you were born does not mean that you need to subjugate your living days to it. Does not mean that you need to surrender your living day. Doesn't matter what the size of and how involved and how big it is and everything else. The only thing that really matters is what you're going to do with your energy. This is the overall product of someone else's energy. Are you meaning to tell me because someone else had more energy than you that you are going to surrender your energy to it? I would think that many would think that. And few will go against it. You need to be that few. Here are some of the things that I think that you should be doing. You may have some of the things that you think that you should be doing. Would love to share that with you. Number one, you should be disciplined in everything that you have right now. I'm telling you, the only thing that really matters right now is you maintaining your overall sovereignty. Because I'm going to tell you something that is going to be a very painful thing. You're going to wish later on you're going to wish in the future that you were doing what you should have been doing right now. You heard it, you knew it was right, but you didn't act on it. You're going to wish that had happened because of the comfort of today. Well, here's what happens with today. Today becomes tomorrow. And tomorrow looks back at yesterday and say, I wish I should have. I should have done this. I don't want you to be in that position. Don't want you to be in that position. It's okay to live for today, but one of the things that has to be understood is that your today is going to be a tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a day. So you want to make sure that you're doing things that are necessary for you to have the advantage of how you want to live tomorrow. But it's all up to you. There are some people that don't see any relative need in all of this. I get it. I respect those individuals. Cool. That's totally fine. But then again, when things change up all of a sudden, as long as you realize that you knew that what you were going to be facing and it wasn't important for you to change that direction, then when things do change and they are apparent and before you, don't try to victimize those individuals that knew that these things are going to be happening. Because here's the thing, they've already planned for you. They already planned for you, because the people that do plan, they realize there's a bunch of people that haven't. And they need to protect themselves from those individuals, because that's where the real problems are going to be. And it's going to be instigated by the system. This is why the system really doesn't care about you preparing, doesn't care about you, doesn't care what you're doing, because you're not stopping its overall direction. It is fighting among itself for the overall direction and what methods and what objectives should be fought. They have to fight each other because they have the same will, but they have disagreements, and they have to fight among each other, and they use you to fight their wars. They use you to fight their battles. But if you refuse to fight their battles and remove yourself, that's a choice that they really don't contend with, because they're not God. They're not omnipresent. Yes, they got Big Brother and Smart, all these other things to spy on you. That's why they have to spy on you, because they can't control your free will. They got to get you to surrender it. So we got a caller in queue. I'm going to get to my man Jambone real quick. There are things that you should be doing. 1, acquiring the assets. 2, acquiring another means of cash flow to come into your family and for you to use, for you to actually get leverage and to get a force multiplier. All streams of income is so important. And get the information that is working. That's definitely what we need to do. We got my man Jambone. Let me go to a caller real quick. My man Jambone is in queue. Jambone, welcome to Thando Radio Show, brother. What is your question or comment?
Okay, I just got a quick comment there, Brother Ren. I was going to tell everyone it's very important for people to look at also assets that they can possibly make. Not only the things that they can just acquire and buy, but things that they could make. Back in the olden days, like the 1950s and 40s, a lot of people didn't have a whole lot of money. So what they had to do, they had to use their minds in order to be able to take things that were broken or things that they could create to be able to come up with things that are assets. I was talking to Brother Hayes and Brother Ross, and I think I even talked to you about old motors and junk that people just throw out, like old fans and so forth, be able to make homemade turbines, homemade generators. I can go on, and there's there's a lot of free information, but I also highly advise for people to take your course in preparations as well, because it's crucial for people to know that how to survive in certain situations and how to prep up things. But in our private circles, just try to get with a little bit of everyone, what knowledge they have, and you can put together to come up and combine forces to do things. Like if you can't do certain things at a certain time, maybe the other person can, and you can get things done. You even just making a garden. Well, your work schedule may not be, on par with
to making a garden, right?
Right. Yeah. So, if you had, who's ever in your circle can go in like in late in the afternoon or early in the morning and tend to it, and then you can come in and, a certain time and tend to it and take turns, then you can get a lot of things done, that's what I've been trying to explain for a while, that we all got to take part and help one another, like you and Brother David's been saying, and be able to use our mind and be able to take things that people say that is junk, which, like, they tell people in Africa, gold and silver is junk. They don't know what is real wealth. They don't know what's real assets. You could take the grass clippings to some of the tumbleweeds in a person's front yard and make it to an asset. You just got to be able to use your mind. But that's all I had to share.
So powerful. No, Jambone, that's very, very important, because one of the things is your energy is an asset, and that's you using your energy in a productive way. And one of the things you want to secure the books on how to do certain things. You want to have you want to have young people, if you're going to go to school, make sure you go to a school that's going to teach you actually teach you some intrinsical skill that is always going to be needed. These are the things, how much you know and how to do certain things is going to be critical to this whole situation, because I'm going to tell you, a dentist and some doctors, they don't need to buy, they may not need to buy as much silver and gold because they're going to be paid in that by other people that are going to be seeking their overall intrinsic knowledge, their intrinsic know-how to assist them. And if you have the right things, if you have assets, remember, the system is going to require an asset for an asset. It is not going to require a debt for an asset. This is so critical in all forms, and that is so true, Jambone. Hold on, Jambone. We got another caller in queue before we get out of here. Welcome, caller. Area code 803. What is your name and what is your question or comment?
Hey, Brother Dave. This is Sister Erica calling.
Hey, Sister Davis. What's going on?
Well, yeah, just like what Jambone was saying, as far as you got to think outside the box, that's why I think the downsizing right now is so important, because we are able to think outside the box right now. We have a chance. We have the insight through your show and through other avenues that this is coming. So the stuff that we know we're not going to need, we need to really look at go through our homes, go through the attics, the basements. You know what I mean? A lot of things, even like I said, you can get the kids involved. They can sell some of their toys that they don't want or old clothes. Women can sell, some of the pocketbooks and shoes and fashions that they know they're not going to be taken into that next level. People have old cars. They have stuff in the garage. That is financial blessings right there that are all around them, and they think they don't have anything. Have yard sales. You can collaborate with other people with their yard sales or charity events. You know what I mean? And then whatever's left over that you really don't need to give away. But some of these extra TVs, look and see the value of what things are. Like I think I said before, when they had Katrina, people were looting for TVs, and I'm saying to myself, you don't even have electricity. You got to put the TV on a boat to carry it to shore. What are you doing? You know what I mean? That stuff is not really needed right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And then you just came through the water, and now the TV is totally destroyed because it's been compromised by water. So I think Jambone wanted to make real quick, Jambone, because we got to get ready to get out of here. I think, was there something that you wanted to say?
Oh, no, that was it there, Brother Ann.
Okay.
But
Sister Davis,
go ahead.
And
like I said, next week, I'm going to continue doing a month, do a little couple of shows on Wise Wednesdays just to, do a little blurb here and there about the downsizing, because, with spring and summer, that's where you spring clean, and some people don't understand the value. For example, you might want to fix that old lawnmower. You might not need it. Fix it up for $25 and sell it for $150. There you made a profit right there. That thing been sitting in your garage for, 5 years. You know what I'm saying?
Doing nothing.
So,
right,
doing nothing. So we have to show people how to think outside the box and answer some questions and really, I'm going to do a little bit of segments on each Wednesday so that we can get people really, really motivated to downsize. Plus, once we were, back in 1930, just think if they knew in 2 years prior, just think the advancements they would have made. You know what I mean? They barely had television or radio. But just think if they could have got the word out. Let's role play. What would they have done in 1928? Do a show, Dave. What would you have done in 1928? To make the difference before the Depression.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Even saving sugar.
Right.
Just saving flour and sugar would have taken people to the next level, because that's what they didn't have. That's what everybody wanted: flour, sugar, and rice, no matter what. So we'll talk next week with but that might be a good show. What would we have done in 1928, and what will we do in 2017, getting ready for the next years that are coming? So that can make people start thinking, outside the box. The famine. What would we have done if we had insight in 1929? Because now we're going to have to apply those measures. But I know we're up against the time frame. But we'll talk next
Sister
week.
Davis.
Yeah, we'll talk
yes,
next
well
week.
Well said. Okay, everyone, we're getting ready to get out of here. Listen, if you signed up for the Bitcoin with us, what we're going to do, we're going to have at 1 o'clock 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Text me, and I'm going to send you all email on how to set up your account, and then we're going to have a call. Text me tomorrow, and I will give you the number, the conference call number, because we're going to talk about some things there. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Much love, much respect. There's never goodbye. It's always I'll see you later. And I'm sorry I didn't get everything out today. But it's just so much. So, Brother Braggs, if you would get us out of here, would greatly appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, I got you. Peace.
Peace, Brother Bragg.
Going back here right now.
I love when Brother Bragg chime us out and the dogs respond too. They know that frequency.
Oh, they like it, man. Already,
oh, yeah.
Here we go.
We'll talk at you. Peace.